morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world and what platform you are watching and or listening to. This is Wrestling with Faith with me, your host, Dave Abbott. And you can get us on youtube.com/Wrestling with Faith UK, also on facebook.com/Wrestling with Faith. And you can also get us on Spotify and various other podcast platforms, including Google, Amazon, amongst many others too. And to reach out to me and to keep up with the developments regarding the Wrestling with Faith podcast, on which we discuss everything from faith, mental health, and all things wrestling as well, you can get me on the artist formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, at faith_wrestling. And let's get straight to it. This is a guy who I've been privileged to have on the Wrestling with Faith podcast before. Maybe sometime, I think it might have been last year. This is new, up-and-coming wrestling talent extraordinaire. And I'm going to see if I pronounced his surname correctly this time round. It is Keegan Dimitrijevic.
100% correct, man.
Get in, result, man. It's only going to go up from here. Keegan, the most important question I'm going to ask you today is, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I feel physically good. I feel mentally good right now. So stuff's looking up. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going. How are you?
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, blessed. You know what I mean? You just every day that you get to do something and be a blessing to you to other people is a blessing to you, man. And this is one of the many blessings I'm really grateful for God for, which is the Wrestling with Faith podcast. So to pick up where we left off last time, so I was recapping over our last interview, and we discussed all things from sort of your neck of the woods, because obviously you're Canadian, and the amount of influences that you've had decades and decades and decades gone by, along with the American and the Japanese influences that you've got as well. One of the things I want to touch on is, man, let's just go straight to it. What's this about training with Seth Rollins?
So
come on, let's tackle that right from the get-go, man. Come on.
All right. Yeah. So Seth Rollins has his wrestling school. It's called Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. It's located in Davenport, Iowa, which is kind of in the central area of the United States, getting close to the southern border. It's getting close to there. I'm not too familiar with America, but I drove all through it to get there. So
wow,
it was a long ride.
Yeah.
But Seth Rollins, also with his former tag team partner Marek Brave, who is a fantastic mind for this industry, such a good performer. It's too bad what happened to him. His career got cut short, but he's been able to pass on his knowledge to us as well. So those two are the head coaches, and there's also another coach named Matt Mayday. He kind of looks like me a little bit. There's been some comparisons. He's got really long blonde hair, except it's like way longer than mine now. Like mine used to be a lot longer, but he was great too. So there was three main coaches. Seth Rollins was at the top of it. He was like the pinnacle of it. So we trained with Seth, and he was there quite a bit. And he gave us so much knowledge, man, about everything. Like it wasn't just moves that we learned. Like we learned psychology, learned storytelling. We learned different facets from different parts of the world, because Colby's been everywhere. Sorry, Seth Rollins. We call him Colby. I just call him Colby by accident because but yeah, so Seth Rollins was there all the time, and he was there, and like you would think for his schedule he would never be there, right? And he would just walk right into the gym when we started, and he would help us out. He'd give us so much advice. Like we would have Q&As for sometimes up to 2 hours, where we could just pick his brain, ask him anything, and it really helped us, because this is a guy who has done pretty much everything in this industry, right? He's main evented WrestleMania, if you count Mania 31. He's been WWE champion. He's won pretty much every active title. He's had some of the best matches in the history of the company. And that's not even just counting like stuff that he's done outside of WWE, like Ring of Honor and things like that. Body of work there is Tyler Black. So there's been so much that we learned over a 12-week period that it's almost like you were overseas in a way. Like you were there and you were just picking stuff up, physically you had to be at the best you could because Seth does CrossFit. We had to do CrossFit.
Yes.
Now I'm a CrossFit Canadian, as I call it.
CrossFit's great when you've finished. I've found CrossFit. It's yeah, it's intense, but it's also immense as well, man. I mean, the stuff that just not does for your body, but also for your mind as well, and your outlook when you finish those types of intense workouts is just amazing. It really is incredible. I mean, you were there for 12 weeks, okay? The first time Seth is within sort of spitting distance from you. Talk us through that. Did it seem surreal, or did you just kind of take it in your stride and thought, well, I know he's going to be there. It's his training session, it's his camp, and I'm here to learn. Or was it a little bit overwhelming at first?
Yes and no. I mean, like you made a great point that we all knew he was going to be there, and I can't speak on behalf of everybody else because there was 7 of us that ended up finishing. But the first day we got there, we had to do some conditioning. It was a conditioning test, and they only do this because they want to see where everybody's at physically before you get in the ring. It's just like almost like a safety precaution to an extent,
Yeah.
just to see exactly where we were. I'm not a small person. I'm not small. Um, but I went in with the mentality of okay, he's gonna be there, no, regardless of how you physically are right now. Show him what you have.
Yeah.
And he walked in. So he walked in just regular. He came in very regular, like just regular clothes, just talking to us like we were real people, like not demeaning us. He was very good to us. And I kind of had like I felt like I was gonna be a little starstruck, but then I think once we started doing the workout, it was like, okay, this is on. It's almost like that fight or flight mentality of okay,
Yeah.
we have
This
to do
is business.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was my mindset, and man, I died on that conditioning test, but I died. Man. Ask anybody else who was in that class with me, they'll tell you. And I just kept going because I knew that eventually I was going to get in the ring with him, and
Yeah.
that was my end destination of like, okay, go, show him that you're in enough shape to compete, so they don't think there that you're just some slob from somewhere else, just coming in thinking you want to be a pro wrestler. Because I'm sure that happens a lot everywhere. You get a lot of guys who come in, they're out of shape, they put in the least amount of effort into looking the part and thinking that they could just go in and do this, and that's the farthest.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show him, even though I was a bigger guy, because like I was on the medications, which I think we talked about on the last show. I was
Yes.
still recovering from that, and then
Right.
I just got off another set. I got off a Prozac in January,
Oh man,
and then I
that's
was dropping.
awesome.
Yeah, so I was dropping weight from that too. So I dropped about 25, 30 pounds before I got there, but I still wasn't where I wanted to be physically. But I said, you know what? I committed to this 2 years ago. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And seeing him on that first day, I was like, I hope he sees that after these 12 weeks, there's a big difference. And not just my size, but in just everything. Hopefully he sees the work ethic because I always have prided myself on being the hardest worker.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean,
On the first day.
no, that is absolutely epic, and I think as well, it's like anything in life as well. It's not just working hard; it's working smart as well, and it's also showing your your mentors as well as your peers as well that you've got the right attitude as well. Even if you rocked up to, like you alluded to there, you didn't feel in your best physical condition, but if the attitude's right, if you're saying the right things, you're listening when you're supposed to be listening, and then answering when a question comes at you. I think that in any industry, including wrestling, can get you just as far as it can do being able to jump up and down and jump over the ropes and suplex and and show how much you can press and stuff like that as well. So that's awesome. I mean, one of the things that almost pushed me off my chair when you mentioned it there was the fact that you said that Seth came in regular gear. I think looking over the past 4 or 5 years, I think when Seth comes out, I think he's forgotten what regular gear looks like. I mean, that must have been that he isn't coming in with the world's loudest clothes range as well, and just coming in as like just regular. as he did back in his sort of Ring of Honor days, like a regular sort of wrestler. I mean, obviously that's absolutely immense. So you're doing the conditioning test, you get through that. Now you're in the ring opposite Seth Rollins, a guy who came up through obviously Ring of Honor, then went through the developmental in WWE through NXT, and then obviously formed one of my favorite factions over the past 20 years, barring the Wyatt family, which was the Shield as well, which obviously, as we all know, the tribal chief, and obviously the artist formerly known as Dean Ambrose, John, cut me for the sake of it, Moxley as well. I mean, what was it like knowing that you were going to go collar and elbow tie with Seth Rollins?
I mean, if you told me that when I was 10 years old, I probably like, yeah, that's a dream, right? Even in high school, I think when, especially because like, I mean, Seth's back on top of his game now, but back when I was in high school, like he was the guy, like above Roman, above Dean Ambrose, like he was the WWE champion when I was in high school, so
Yeah.
he was the man in the industry. And to tell me like, hey, you're gonna be rubbing elbow grease with that guy, that's pretty. You're gonna even be in the same gym as that guy. You're gonna be in the ring with that guy. You're gonna be talking to him. I would have said, I don't know about that. But I mean, the one thing that I learned in the first week or two was just be you, act
Yeah.
normal. Like so, especially too, because like all of us, whether it's a top star or just a wrestler in the indies, we're all people. We're all individuals. So we can look at it at Seth from a perspective of ethos and credibility and be like, okay, this guy is just the best. In ring wise, the best. Great promo, excels in everything in the game, right? So we look at him as somebody like, okay, let's try and be what he is right now. However, when you're in the ring with somebody like that, you kind of have to put yourself at their level. You kind of have to understand like, okay, yeah, he's done all this and this, but keep your mind open and try not to quote unquote mark out.
Yeah.
It does happen a lot, but try to remain mentally on an even playing field and know what the objective is. You
Yeah.
like still have those feelings, but understand too, like, okay, you're there to learn and just sometimes keep your mouth shut a little more and keep your ears open because
Yes.
then you're gonna really understand what he's explaining to you. Even if he's like showing you a spot or showing you a move or just talking about psychology. If you just keep your ears open, make eye contact, pay attention, then that's I think what the most rewarding experiences of being in the same places as Seth.
Awesome. And when you came, obviously, when that 12 weeks was up, do you feel that you learned a lot more than what you did the 3 months prior
Oh,
about the industry?
oh man, yeah. I mean, if I didn't go there, I feel like obviously I wouldn't be in the ring right now if I didn't train there. But the fact like they taught us in an old school style of just like I said, psychology is going to be a big theme probably as we talk because like psychology was the number one focus on everything. Like yeah, we can learn moves and stuff, and obviously we did, and we did them until we executed them safely. However, if you don't have psychology in your match, none of it's going to make sense,
True.
and the audience is not going to care. And if you don't
Yeah.
have psychology, you're not going to get a reaction from anybody. So we
100%.
really, the one thing that was very much emphasized was having emotion in your matches. So even if it's something as like Roman is very good at this, when he's getting heat in his matches, when he's beating down the babyface, he keeps talking. He talks
Yeah.
to the camera, he talks to the hard camera, he talks to the crowd. That like that little stuff means so much because you're getting them involved. And if you're just orchestrating a bunch of choreographed moves, a lot of times the crowd's not going to be into it. They might pop for a couple of the moves, but for the rest of it, they're not going to. It's not going to be relatable to them. And relatability was another thing that was really signified to us was you have to be relatable, whether you're babyface or heel or tweener.
Absolutely. I think the worst place to be for any wrestler, just watching as a wrestling fan, knowing people in the industry, speaking to promoters, and speaking to wrestlers, up and coming wrestlers like yourself, as well as obviously some of the names that are already been well established or retired, is the worst place to be. And I don't know if you can back this up, is being lukewarm, where you're just not getting a face pop or you're not getting heel heat. Being smack bang in the middle, I think for a wrestler, you could have all the talent in the world, but if the crowd is just flatlined, it's got to be. It's almost like a monologue, isn't it? When you're doing performing arts, if you're stood on stage and doing a monologue and you're not getting any reaction at the end of your performance, it's like, what am I doing it for? Would you agree that being in the middle and not getting any reaction, good or bad, is possibly one of the most frightening places to be for anybody coming up in the wrestling industry?
It's the worst. I think 100% it's the worst, because if you're not getting a reaction, nobody cares. If they boo you, that means they're caring. If they cheer, that means that they care. If they just sit there on their hands, no matter what good moves you have, if you're not emotionally getting that crowd, you can have the best athletic contest ever. You could do 30 moonsaults, you can do 30 Phoenix splashes, 30 450s. But if that crowd is not reacting, it doesn't matter.
All that risk for nothing. Yeah, like, it's all risk for nothing.
Your athleticism in wrestling is obviously important, but acrobatics is not. Acrobatics, it comes later. It comes secondary. It's like it's not required. But I think a lot of talents today, like, and even I fell into this when I got there. We wanted to learn all the acrobatics, and we wanted to know how to jump off top rope. We wanted to know that, know this off top rope, know that off top rope. But then as we were taught, we realized that doesn't matter. Like, if you like, you obviously know this, but like for anyone else who's watching, if you go back and you watch Ric Flair in his matches with Ricky Steamboat, Barry Windham, whoever, there was no springboard in those matches. The most high risk thing that was done was like a chop off the top rope, off the top turn. Like that was the extent, and we still talk about those matches as the greatest in the history of this business. So it's about captivating the crowd. It's about making them hate the heel, making them love the babyface, and making a match make sense where the babyface prospers or the heel cheats or the heel takes a shortcut to get to where they.
Yeah, and it's a difficult position to be in it as well. I mean, I used to, many moons ago, do martial arts, and a lot of that was based down to your leg work, your groundwork had to be absolutely spot on. And I would imagine as well in wrestling, the key thing is as well, before you get to all the fancy moves, before you get to all the high risk maneuvers, is getting your leg work right, getting your stance right, getting your positioning correct as well, getting the chemistry, knowing when to spot when your opponent's going to be doing a move that needs your assistance to help pull that off, and vice versa. But also the groundwork, the grappling as well, the learning to take bumps. People don't realize how important it is to run the ropes and just literally fall and take the bumps before you're actually in the ring with an opponent. And all that stuff is absolutely essential, isn't it? And that's the stuff that a lot of fans don't see, is that all the things that some people might find boring, dull, or uninterest, not interesting at all, are the absolute foundations of what everything else comes on top of. And is that the kind of things that sort of Marek and Seth were trying to get across to you guys?
1000%. So there was a time they were sitting with us and they were talking about how everybody on Twitter or X now or Instagram or Facebook, they'll say, oh, this person sucks or this person sucks. But really they don't, because they're in the position they are for a reason, right? And people, like a lot of wrestling people who have never been in a ring, they don't understand like how taking a bump feels and how it works. So if you don't tuck your chin on taking a bump, trust me from experience, it sucks. It sucks. So like there's even an art to running the ropes. So the way we're learned, so in America, you always work the left side. Whereas in Mexico, you work the right side. So when you're running the ropes in America, you start with your left foot. I kept going with my right. I kept going with my right foot when I started. So they had to teach me. Granted, it took a bit because I'm right-handed. I'm not naturally left-handed. So I had to teach myself how to be left-handed. And I had to teach myself how to start running with my left foot first. So just like, and that takes a lot of time to learn, because when you're naturally right-handed and you've been doing stuff right-handed your entire life, you eventually have to make the switch to do it left. Like you can still strike with your left and stuff, but like when you go for a suplex, you always go with the left arm. If you hit a DDT, you hook them with your left arm. That's the American / North American way of wrestling. So there's a lot of little things that people who have never been in a ring a lot of times don't know about, and then they will try to analyze a match without knowing how a match is really put together. And that's why I think a lot of performers today kind of don't read dirt sheets, or they don't, or they don't read the analysis of anybody, because there's a lot more into it than people assume. And even for somebody like me who has studied this industry forever, I was learning so much.
Yeah.
You never stop learning. That's the other thing in pro wrestling. You never stop learning. Even when you're retired, you're going to keep learning. And I knew the history of wrestling. I knew how stuff was put together, but I didn't know what consisted at the beginning of taking a good bump until I did it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Because I would stay after class was done, I would stay and still do stuff. And even if I had a second thought about doing something, I would keep doing it until I didn't have to think about it anymore. So give you an example.
Epic.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. Up and overs, I sucked at. That's when you run to the turnbuckle and you jump off with the rope. Like I'm 250 pounds, man. I suck at that. That's not something I was designed to do. But if you keep,
is that like doing the Vader bomb? Is it a bit like that? Sorry, where you run to the.
It is, except you run and then you push yourself like this while the guy under you goes under you.
Oh, like yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's not meant for 250-pound men to do. but I mean, I kept doing it until I got it. And,
awesome.
It takes time, but at the same time, you have to let yourself fail a few times. You have to let yourself be coached, and as long as you show people that you're putting 1,000% effort into it, it'll eventually happen. Like when I took a handstand bump for the first time, I couldn't handstand. I didn't know how to handstand, but it took practice. So you have to handstand, you have to pause yourself up in the air for a second, then tuck your chin and rotate over and land flat on your back with all four of your limbs at the same time landing. That takes a lot of precision. It takes a lot of timing. Like timing's another thing that we really learned about. How to time stuff, how to know when stuff's coming, how to post, which posting is like, for example, if you suplex somebody, the reason why they get so high in the air is not because your opponent's lifting you, it's because you have your hand kind of like as a fulcrum and you put it on their hip and you push up.
Yes.
To get that distance.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I knew what posting was, but I didn't know all the moves that you had to post for. No. So that was another thing that we learned too, whether it's taking a suplex, taking a spine buster, which those suck. Like stuff like that. We always you had to learn how to post. Taking a back body drop was the same way. You put your hands on your opponent's shoulder / upper back and you push yourself up to flip, and they kind of give you a little help on the way.
Right.
Just little stuff like that, and just little stuff like that made you learn so much about what to do and what not to do in the ring.
100%. Like even a wrist
lock. Yeah, like even putting a wrist lock on, there's an art to that. So if you think chain wrestling is boring, it's not easy to do.
No, not at all, man. And now that you've said that about like the way the Americans run, and then obviously like Lucha Libre, AAA and things like that, I didn't know that. So I'm going to be actively looking out for that now.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching AEW or WWE or Impact, Ring of Honor, etc., and MLW and all the others, I'm going to be looking out for that. And then obviously when I'm watching AAA, or watching like the more, like I say, Lucha Libre style wrestlers and how they do it, I'm going to be actively looking out for that, because I didn't have a clue until today. So
I didn't know either. When I got there, I had no idea. I had no idea that you were supposed to work the left, and then in Lucha Libre you work the right. I had no idea until I started watching when I came back home, and I realized that in Lucha Libre like you run with your left foot, you arm drag the right instead of the left. So like it's really unique about how that works. and
That is
why it
awesome.
works. So in America, it's always been that way. And again, I never knew that. So that was a cool learning experience for me because now when I wrestle, it's like scientific that I know go to the left.
Of course.
Always go to the
Yeah.
left. So
That's epic.
yeah,
Man, that's little details, little fine details like that, man. I just never knew. I never
yeah,
knew stuff like that, man. That
yeah,
is
wrestling
awesome.
is not easy.
No, it's
Wrestling
not.
is not easy. So when a lot of people say that so and so sucks or this isn't good, I mean, there's, you know, obviously everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I think there needs to be a level of appreciation that goes into the art of it, regardless if it's your
Yeah,
cup of tea or not. Like there's effort put into every one of these promos, every one of these matches, these segments. Like it's a lot, man, and it takes people of extraordinary talent to be very good at this. Like you need to be
absolutely.
you almost need to be superhuman to an extent to be
Yeah,
a
because
premier performer.
every little move that you do, even like you say from the running, from rope to rope,
Mhm.
everything has to be thought out.
Yeah.
And then while you're doing one move, you're thinking about what you do in the next, and then
Mhm.
how to safely execute that move for your opponent. And obviously, if you're in a move where you're being thrown around, how to execute that safely for yourself as well, and make sure the chemistry and the timing and everything is there, man. It's so unique. I mean, speaking of obviously wrestling injuries, you mentioned at the beginning as well about Marek Brave. Marek, for those people who are not aware, I think it was around about sort of 2017, wasn't it, where he was strongly advised by medical professionals to knock it on the head, the wrestling, because it could seriously damage his health for the remainder of his life. So, what was Marek's involvement then in that? I mean, was he as physical as what Seth could be, or was it more the sort of the psychological side of things?
He didn't bump, but he was still very hands-on. So he showed us a lot of moves too. He just didn't bump for them. So like he would have
Right,
someone else bump to show it, but he would execute the move and show us
right.
the science behind it or the story behind it. So he was very hands-on. He to me he was very I don't like to use the word inspiring, but he was very uh he was very human with us. Like he was very relatable to an extent where he told would talk to us about his injury and he would talk to us about why safety is like the number one thing in this industry.
Right.
He was very adamant about safety.
Yes.
So for me, I'm new. I'm a bull in a china shop. I'm green. So he was very hands-on with making sure that we executed everything properly. And we would do it again and again and again and
Good.
again and until we got it. And he was very patient. So like for instance, if I go do something and even if I do it right, he'd be staring right at me and he'd go, I didn't see it. Do it again. And then I would go do it again. You know, but he was
Eat, sleep, repeat.
absolutely he was but he was also very motivating too. Like he put him he a lot of times he put himself at our level while still reminding us like I'm your coach. So, but he was very relatable in that sense too of us as human beings,
That's
which I think
fantastic. And that must have been really nice as well, because, some people say never meet the people who you follow in the industry that you want to pursue a career in. So that must have been really nice to have somebody to speak to you who's been and done it in the industry, just talk to you on that level, a level where you understand, you get it, you don't feel like you're being spoken down to or patronized. It's just, I'm telling you this because I've been there, done it, and this is why you need to do it again and again and again and again and again. So that is awesome. I mean, just to sort of finish on that side of things, um, what's what's the next kick on for you then from that? I mean, because that is one heck of a wrestling education to have for 12 weeks. I've been watching videos of you doing intergender matches as well. I mean, against colleague of yours, Skylar Cruz,
yep.
over recent weeks. And man, that mat slaps hard, doesn't it? When you're doing
Oh,
them suplex, that mat slaps, man. I mean, that is wow. So obviously you've been taking obviously what you've learned, putting it into really good effect. If anybody hasn't seen it, Keegan has got his own YouTube channel as well, which I will put in the link on
Thank
the
you.
YouTube as well. But yeah, so what's the next step from here, man? I mean, are there any more wrestling camps that you're going to be going to, that you're subscribing to, or is it just a case of, right, I'm going to jump and just try and make a name for myself on the indies?
So like, you never stop learning. So I'm always going to be around doing something. In terms of wrestling camps, I don't got a lot of money left, man. But
I
I'm
can't imagine these are cheap, are they?
oh, they are not. So if I was to gonna go back, I would have to save up. However, um, I I figured out too how much of a learning on the job business wrestling is. And the
Mm,
one way that you really learn is having matches.
yes.
So when you have matches, you can put things into execution. You can try new things. Like obviously being in the ring on your own time is essential. However, when you're having matches, that's when you really learn how to be a worker and not just somebody who can do moves. So I will be wrestling a little bit in September. I think I got 3 shows for that.
Awesome.
So I took this month off just for some family stuff, but I will
Yeah.
be back in the ring in September. And I have a talent evaluation with Impact on September 1st.
Oh,
So
come on.
yeah, I'm very excited.
Man,
And yeah,
that is
I'm very,
epic.
well, yeah, because Scott Demore, who's now the president of
Of
Impact,
course. One of
owns
your fellow countrymen as well.
the
Yeah.
fellow Windsorman. We live in the same state.
Yes. Well,
So,
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
so, he now basically owns Impact, and he has the Can-Am Wrestling Dojo.
Ah, yes.
So they're doing him and Josh Alexander are doing a talent evaluation on September
Wow.
1st, and I will be there.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, keep me posted because I have just got tickets for Impact at the Newcastle show in the UK as well. I think it's like the first time in about 9 years that Impact has been to the UK, maybe even a bit longer. I don't know, but it's
Like
around,
2014. Yeah.
yeah, it's getting around about a decade since Impact has been to the UK. And I was, I could have got tickets for AEW, but the tickets we got were like in the rafters, man. It was like, nah, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to get close up and personal. But we've got decent tickets for Impact Wrestling, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But please keep me posted about that, man, about the Impact trials. And when are the Impact trials coming up with the Walking Weapon and Scott Demore?
So they're actually going to be in my city. They're
Wow,
gonna, they're going to be in Windsor. So, I mean, I have to go, right? I mean,
100%.
like there's no way I can't. And then I have a couple shows about right after. So hopefully I can keep the momentum going. Hopefully the evaluation goes well. I mean, like I'm gonna put my heart and soul into it.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully bring something a bit different to the table. That's kind of not seen because one of the things that I really thrive off of is being different. I try to
Yes.
be unique. I try to not do what everybody else is doing. So, like for instance, my in-ring style, I like it to be more of a throwback,
Yeah.
kind of like a, kind of like a, I don't want to say a Johnny Saint style, but a lot more mat based, more intense, more hard hitting. So like, like the Kurt Angles, the Tomohiro Ishiis, the Katsuyori Shibatas,
I was just going to say a bit of strong style in there.
a bit like if you mix strong style with technical, that's
Yes.
my preferred style. So guys like that. I William Regal's another one. So like a style like that. So which is not very commonplace in North America now. So
No, I don't
hopefully
think it's commonplace full stop. I think a lot of like Britain, Japan, Canada, America, I think a lot of it has moved because it looks great to the high flying stuff. I think a lot of Mexican influence has really been at the forefront. Like you say, like we touched upon earlier. But to get back to the old school, I mean, let's you look at old school now. Like who's doing old school now? Probably the best example, maybe FTR.
yeah,
When you're looking like throwback wrestlers, these guys are just like, yeah, they're not going to come in like, chiseled and all that lot. And it's all about the fake tan. It's like, dude, we're just going to get at it and we're going to get slapped, we're going to get chopped, we're going to get punched, and we're going to get thrown around.
they're
But we're going
great.
to have a great time doing it. Do you know what
And,
I mean?
and I love that gritty style. So guys like like if we're talking about like today, guys like FTR, Ilya Dragunov
Oh
is another one who
yes.
I really pattern myself off of. And even though I'm about 5-6 inches shorter, Gunther is the other one.
Yes.
So he's
Yeah.
another one that I look at too, because
Of
yeah, I'm a bit
course.
shorter than him, but I love throwing chops. I love throwing suplexes. I love that. Sheamus is another one that just pops in my
Yes.
mind of someone else
Absolutely.
who I've really studied to execute stuff, because I love that rough and tumble style where it doesn't look pretty, but you know
No.
that it's effective. And a wrestling match isn't supposed to be pretty. It's
No.
supposed to look like a fight, right? And
Absolutely, man.
maybe we are
Chests are
fighting.
supposed to explode red, aren't they?
Yeah,
And there's going to be a lot of it. Like Pete
exactly.
Dunne as well, who's
Mhm.
I don't like the name Butch. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. He's always going to be Pete Dunne to me. Again, fellow, countryman.
Yeah,
I think he's from the Midlands, I think, as well. So not a million miles away from where I live. But Pete Dunne as well, very, very technical, but
yeah.
very brutal as well. I mean, watch some of his matches in NXT. I mean, there are some hard shots being dished out and received in his matches as well. So, yeah, man. I mean, listen, I'm going to be praying for you, man, and rooting for you. And you keep me posted about the Walking Weapon and Scott Demore tryouts, man, because that is going to be epic to keep in touch of. We've
Yeah.
got just under a couple of minutes, brother. This is your opportunity now, Keegan, to
Yeah.
plug all of your socials, where people can see you, where they can contact you, where they can book you, where they can watch your videos, and any shows that you've got coming up that you want to promote as well. The floor's
Awesome.
yours.
Thank you, man. So, like most will know me on Twitter or X as Keegan RW. So, yeah, of course, follow me there, interact with me. Instagram is the same thing, the Keegan RW. YouTube, I believe, is the same thing. Twitch, there's Keegan RW Gaming. I'm trying to run all this stuff. I even made a TikTok, which is Keegan RW as well.
I've seen
Facebook.
your Crash Bandicoot stuff as well, man. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
So,
man, awesome! Yeah, that's for a whole other show. We can do a whole show on transportation. Yeah, so I got TikTok too. And then my email is bookkeeganrw@outlook.com. And then yeah, man, and the one thing that I learned too is I respect everybody who's ever been in a wrestling ring.
yes.
Just for everything that goes into it. And before I go, I want to say that I think you've seen my list of goals for the next while, and being in Progress
Yes.
Wrestling is one.
Yes, and I'm glad your mental health is taking a turn for the better as well since you did the
Thank you.
book and you come off the medication. Keegan, it's been an absolute blessing, brother. We need to do part 3 in a few months as well, just to
Absolutely.
see what's happened between now and then, because I'm loving watching the development.
Thank you.
You've been listening and/or watching Wrestling with Faith with myself, Dave Abbott, and Keegan Dimitrijevic, and all of Keegan's socials and links will be on the YouTube video as well. Keegan, God bless, brother. Take care, and I'll chat to you soon.
Thank you, man. Have a great day.
Take care, brother. All the best.